Welcome back to Brashenomics. I am Ben Brashen with a very good friend of our show. Glen Thiessen is back with us, wealth advisor with Transition Planning, Inc., who is excellent at helping families plan ahead for the major transitions in life, and the investment advice and securities he offers are through KMS Financial Services, Inc. Glen, how are you, my man?
Very good, especially in this holiday season.
Yeah, you seem like the holiday type of guy.
It's fun. It's great to have the family get together and just always have it, especially the grandchildren. I love having those grandchildren around.
How many grandchildren do you have?
Three.
Three?
Yeah, and they love their granddad. So.
I bet. What do they call you, just out of curiosity?
Grandpa.
Grandpa?
Yeah.
Yeah. My kid calls my dad Gramps. It's pretty funny. You kind of think Gramps like the old Coke bottle glasses. You don't have Coke bottle glasses. I guess that's why you went for Grandpa.
Yeah, well, we would have preferred Grampy, but that was too close to Daddy, so that didn't work out so good. So
there's multiple consonants, back and forth too for the kids.
Yeah,
it makes it tough. I mean, they can't always pronounce them until they're. Anyways.
Yeah, their hugs just tell me everything. So
yeah, that's all that matters.
That's right.
Okay, so, I know when you talk about kids and you talk about parents and the holidays, that really is when the family starts coming around. And I know within your practice, that's one of the big pieces of the way you help people.
Right.
Is understanding your family and how money transcends top to bottom, I guess, from the old to the young and whatnot.
Yeah, especially now that we're getting into the holiday season. Christmas is one of the biggest spending seasons in the whole year. And one of the things that you really have to be careful about, especially in this time of year, is that propensity to consume, that the idea that the more you make, the more you spend. And a lot of people actually go into debt, spending more than their income when it comes to this time of year. And that's not a very good deal to get into the next year already behind the eight ball, in debt.
Sure. I mean, I guess, and I want to get into, these different types of money, but there's a social pressure that's really hard to escape.
Right. There's an expectation that you're going to go out and show your love by spending on your family. Well, probably the better way to show your love is being fiscally responsible yourself. So that way you don't eventually end up being a burden on the family.
Or as you said, hugs.
Hugs are great. Yeah.
So let's get into the actual money piece. And hugs are free, remember? Spread the love, it's free.
That's right. And when you smile, it's funny how you actually see other people return a smile.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
There you go.
Well, let's talk about 9 kinds of money. We just mentioned this last week, but the idea review. The first kind of money is new money. This is the most powerful kind of money. It's regular. It's systematic. It's your income. It's from working. It's from Social Security if you're retired. It's your pension plan. It's regular systematic income. It's the most powerful kind of money because you can steer it any way you wish, and the more effectively you store that or use it, that'll determine how effective your future is. So new money is real important. Second kind of money is additional money. If you ever received a tax refund.
I love additional money.
Yeah, a bonus, an inheritance.
Finding it on the ground.
Well, there you go. That's, depending on how big the bill is. I see people walk past pennies all the time.
Yeah, and they don't know that could be number 2 additional money for them.
That's right.
Penny saved is a penny earned, my man.
There you go. So what you do with that additional money, money, wealth that's quickly accumulated, like an inheritance. I've seen inheritances get blown in 6 months, and it can be hundreds of thousands. I'm talking about money that you don't hadn't experienced before. You need to be ready to use that money when it comes your way. If you're anticipating an inheritance, know how you're going to use that in your own plan, not just blow it, right? So additional money, it's really important to know how you're going to use that when it comes in. Number 3, old money. Old money is money that's actually sitting around in different places where you already had it. Like, for example, in your savings account, in your IRA, in a life insurance plan, in money that's already sitting around. How effective is it while it's sitting there? Number 4, returns. If you've got money sitting in a place like a bank or a mutual fund, what are the returns that you're getting on it?
If it's at a bank,
yeah,
right now it's probably pretty low.
Very low, right? So that brings me to coordination, but that's number 8. That's the 8th kind. So the idea is how effective is the money that's sitting there, the old money, and what kind of return are you getting? So then there's the need money. The need money is, if you're planning ahead for those planned major expenses, you know how much it's going to take for sending the kids to college or for going on that vacation or replacing your car or fixing the house, repairing a roof. These are major expenses, planned major expenses. How much do you need for that? And you better have that set aside, because if you don't have it set aside, where are you going to get the money? Borrow it, and then you're going to pay interest on top of your expense. So you always want to have interest working for you, not against you. So then there's the no money situation. Well, what do you mean by that? A person who has actually spent all of their money before they even receive it, like, for example, if they're in debt to their eyeballs and they have all their bills laid out and it's all gone before they even receive their paycheck, something's got to change. That's probably a result of that propensity to consume. The more you make, the more you spend, and some people outspend their income. So if you're accumulating debt faster than you're accumulating wealth, you're
when you
going
say
backwards.
some, I mean, there's a lot of people who outspend their income.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, especially going into these types of times of the year.
Right. And you got to be so careful about that, because once you get into that slippery slope of being buried in debt, it is so hard to overcome the interest cost to climb back out of that hole. So what you need to do, if you're in a situation like that where you feel like you have no money, is either you've got to increase your income somehow, and that might be rearranging assets to create a higher income, or getting a second job, or somehow designing more income, or reducing expenses. How can you rearrange liabilities? Now, some people have gone through this whole situation of consolidating debt, taking out their mortgage, basically using their house as an ATM. Well, that's over, right? So we can't really do that anymore. So having learned that once and then fallen back into debt, you want to stop that cycle. So being debt-free is so important. That's one of my number one goals when I start working with people is, do you have any debt? If you're not already debt-free, let's get debt-free, and that would include mortgage.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. And it's tough to do because, I've talked about this with Ryan, and it's, we end up helping people create the biggest debt they're probably ever going to have.
Yes.
And, making sure that they're responsible in doing that. And then also making sure that there is some type of plan to either pay it off or some type of exit strategy.
Sure. And
because there isn't always.
Yeah. There are several different ways to actually pay the mortgage off early. Making extra payments, designing the mortgage to pay twice a month, or, taking out a 15-year loan, or taking out a 30-year loan and making the same payment that you would on a 15-year loan. There's so many different ways that you can actually get rid of that large debt at an accelerated rate. The thing is, have a plan and stick to it. And, try not to get into debt beyond that. So let's talk about tax savings. That's the number 7 kind of money. If you do fund an IRA account and you can actually write it off, guess what? Let's say that you're in a 20% tax bracket. You put $5,000 into an IRA. You're going to experience $1,000 of tax savings. What do you do with that money? A lot of people don't even think about it. They just spend it. Right? Well, what if you took that $1,000 of tax savings and actually put it into an investment to pile up in your house, in your name, right? So the idea is use the tax savings that you have available and reinvest that. So how can you save taxes? IRA, 401k, tax shelters. There's different ways to reduce your tax bill. Number 8, coordination money. This is where if you have an excess amount in checking, but your savings is paying 1% more, move the excess from checking to savings. Coordinate the money. Have enough for those planned major expenses in the near term, but if you're going to have major expense 3 or 4 years from now, basically you don't want to have it in savings or even a CD. Perhaps you want to use a different higher savings vehicle. I want to talk about the 1 minute tax minute. Each session I want to just share just a little bit of accurate tax information that you can do with what you want. Okay, so for in 2013, there's going to be a Medicare surtax of 0.9% for singles with wages exceeding $200,000 and couples with wages exceeding $250,000. In addition to that, there's a 3.8% Medicare tax on unearned income. That's capital gains, dividends, and interest. In 2013, that's going to be applied to singles with adjusted gross income of exceeding $200,000 and couples with adjusted gross income exceeding $250,000. So what can you do with that information? These are ideas. This is not advice. So let me just say, if you have flexibility on when you can receive your income, Moving more of it into this year might avoid these extra taxes above the thresholds. If you're taking profits on investments this year, it would be better than next year if you're going to be repositioning your portfolio. So you can lock in the 15% maximum capital gain tax this year instead of going to pay 20% next year. And that's for singles with wages exceeding $200,000, and again, couples with wages exceeding $250,000. If you were thinking about converting a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA in 2012, that might eventually or might avoid potentially higher income tax rates in 2013 and the extra 3.8% Medicare tax. And why do I say that? Gosh, you might want to consider that with the mushrooming debt, we're going to have higher taxes in the future. So you might want tax-free income.
Mushrooming debt.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Some people call it like a fiscal cliff. You call it mushrooming debt.
I think of the mushrooming cloud on a nuclear...
The nuclear United States debt.
Yeah.
Glenn, we do have to go to break.
All right.
Thanks so much for joining us. Again, Glen Thiessen, Wealth Advisor with Transition Planning. When we come back for the first time, Sarah Clifton's going to join us, and we are going to discuss a little bit more about investment properties and some investments you may be able to make. We'll be back after this break.